So what really is grumbling before we go any further? Is it just kind of this low murmur of complaining in the background that Moses may or may not have been aware of? Well, it could be. We all, I think, are guilty of that and have experienced that. And just in preparing for this sermon, I was irritated that the dogs wouldn't stop barking and the kids wouldn't stop fighting. No quiet place to go, so I go outside, and it just so happens that I go outside and I'm preaching on the 1 week of the year that it's actually pretty cold, so I go outside, so on the back patio, I have to come in and get a scarf, because I live in South Louisiana for a reason. It's warm. I'm preparing a sermon dealing with grumbling and complaining. I'm grumbling and complaining. I don't have a quiet place to go in the house. At least the children of Israel are complaining about dying of thirst. I had a cup of water and a hot cup of coffee. But what is grumbling? It's faithless complaining. That's what they're doing. They're not saying the Lord has provided before, and this situation stinks, but we know God will provide. What they're saying is, we're not satisfied at how God's handling the situation at all. In fact, why did you even take us out of Egypt? Where they said in chapter 16, at least we had full meat pots to eat from, and we had water. Sure, we were beaten and oppressed, but we had full bellies. Here, we're hungry and we're thirsty. Even though they had gathered bread that morning, they weren't really hungry. But something a little more is being indicated here. Something a little deeper, something a little further in the future. And we can say that because Paul says that in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 1 through 6. Paul explains what God is teaching Israel and what God is teaching us in this narrative. For I do not want you to be unaware, brothers, that our fathers were all under the cloud, and all passed through the sea, and all were baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea, and all ate the same spiritual food, and all drank the same spiritual drink. For they drank from the spiritual rock that followed them, and the rock was Christ. Nevertheless, with most of them, God was not pleased, for they were overthrown in the wilderness. Now these things took place as an example for us, that we might not desire evil as they did. See, Jesus is that rock of provision. That's Paul's point. He was struck with God's justice and our place on that cross. His death satisfied God's wrath for sin. His resurrection proclaims that God the Father accepted his sacrifice, and he alone gives the water of life.